Old Thomas Avery liked to say that soil had a memory. He said it the way some men talk about rivers or dogs or old friends, quietly without needing to prove it. Most folks in the valley smiled politely when he said it, then went back to their neat rows, their shovels biting deep into the earth each spring. Dig, trench, hill, repeat. That was how potatoes were grown. That was how they had always been grown. But Thomas remembered another way. He remembered because his grandmother had shown him, long before tractors ruled fields and fertilizer came in bright plastic bags. He had been no more than 8 years old, trailing behind her with bare feet and curiosity, when she stopped at the edge of a clearing and laid the seed potatoes gently on top of the soil instead of burying them. "Don't fight the ground," she had told him. "Let it breathe." That spring, Thomas did not understand, but he remembered the harvest. Now, nearly 70 years later, he stood at the edge of his own small plot, hands stiff with age, back unwilling to bend the way it once had. The soil in front of him was good soil, dark, crumbly, alive, but his body no longer welcomed trenches or heavy hilling. Each year, potatoes cost him more aches than joy, until memory came knocking. It arrived quietly one winter evening while Thomas sat by the stove, turning an old notebook in his hands. The pages were brittle, the ink faded. His grandmother's handwriting leaned and looped across the paper like a slow river. And there it was, written plainly, almost dismissively, as though it were common knowledge. Lay the seed on the earth. Cover with straw. Add more as they rise. Harvest clean. Thomas stared at the words for a long time. Then he laughed, a soft, surprised sound. "So that's where you went," he said aloud. "That's where they lost you." When spring came, he decided to listen. He cleared the weeds, nothing more. No digging, no trenches. He laid the seed potatoes directly on the surface of the soil, spaced a little wider than the books recommended, as if giving them room to stretch and remember who they were. Then he covered them, not with dirt, but with a thick, airy blanket of straw and old leaves saved from autumn, 12 inches deep. It felt wrong at first, too easy, too gentle. Gardening had always been taught as effort made visible. Sweat, turned soil, sore muscles as proof of worth. This felt like cheating. The neighbors noticed. "You forget something, Tom?" one asked, leaning on the fence. "Potatoes go in the ground." Thomas smiled but said nothing. Weeks passed. Rain came and went. The straw settled, darkened, breathed. Then, one morning, green shoots pushed through the mulch like quiet declarations. Thomas added more straw, just as his grandmother had shown him, tucking the plants in layer by layer. And beneath that soft cover, something remarkable was happening. The soil stayed cool even when the sun grew sharp. Moisture lingered long after rain had passed. Earthworms returned in numbers Thomas had not seen in decades, weaving their tunnels through undisturbed ground. Fungal threads remained intact, stretching like invisible bridges beneath his feet. The earth, left alone, began to work for him instead of against him. By midsummer, the potato plants were stronger than any he had grown before. Thicker stems, deeper green, no signs of stress. He watered less. He weeded almost not at all. His back thanked him every morning. But it was the harvest that brought tears to his eyes. When the tops yellowed and fell, Thomas knelt, not to dig, but to peel back the straw. And there they were. Potatoes resting in layers, clean and smooth, stacked through the mulch like pages in a book. He lifted one layer and found another beneath it, then another. The yield was not just larger, It was astonishing. One seed potato had become a tower of food. Thomas sat back on his heels and let out a long breath. He understood then why the method had vanished. It asked for patience instead of force, trust instead of control. It did not suit machines or schedules or tidy rows. It suited people who listened. That evening, he carried a basket of potatoes into his kitchen, straw still clinging to their skins. He washed them gently and set them on the table. They looked different somehow, calmer, as if they had grown without fear. "Soil remembers," he said again, softly, and this time the soil answered. The second year is always the true test. Anyone can stumble into success once. Luck has a way of dressing itself up like wisdom the first time around. But the second season, that is when the soil decides whether you were listening or merely passing through. When spring returned, Thomas Avery felt different standing at the garden's edge. Less tentative, less apologetic. The ache in his back was still there, faithful as an old dog, but it no longer whispered warnings the way it once had. He knew now he would not be digging, he would not be fighting, he would be remembering. The straw from the previous year lay half broken down, darker, richer, threaded with the quiet work of worms. When he pulled it back just enough to place the new seed potatoes, the soil beneath felt alive, springy, breathing, cooperative. It did not resist his fingers. It welcomed them. "This is what you wanted," he murmured, unsure whether he was speaking to the earth or to the memory of his grandmother's hands. This time, the neighbors didn't laugh. They watched. One by one, they drifted closer to the fence as weeks passed. The potato plants emerged earlier than expected, pushing through the mulch with confidence, as if they had been waiting all winter for permission. Their leaves were broader, their stems thicker, their color deeper than the rows down the road where bare soil baked under the sun. "What are you feeding them?" someone finally asked. Thomas smiled. "Nothing they don't already know how to use." By midsummer, the difference was impossible to ignore. While other gardens struggled through heat waves and watering schedules, Thomas's patch stayed cool and dark beneath its straw blanket. The mulch held a moisture like a promise. He watered less than ever before. The weeds, those tireless thieves of energy, barely showed themselves. But what pleased him most could not be seen at first glance. It was the sound. When rain fell, it did not slap the ground hard and run away. It softened into the mulch, seeped downward, disappeared with a sigh. The soil drank slowly, gratefully. On warm evenings, if Thomas knelt and placed his ear close to the earth, he swore he could hear it. Tiny movements, the whisper of life rearranging itself underground. The method did more than grow potatoes. It healed. The soil changed season by season, growing darker, looser, richer without effort. The worms multiplied. The fungal threads, the quiet messengers between roots and nutrients, remained unbroken because the ground was never torn open. Each year, the land asked less of him and gave more in return. That, Thomas realized, was the part no book had ever explained. Modern gardening spoke in commands. Add this, remove that, correct, control, fix. But this method spoke in invitations. Cover, protect, wait. It trusted time. It trusted biology. It trusted the ancient intelligence of plants that had been feeding people long before instruction manuals existed. By the third harvest, the fence no longer separated curiosity from belief. One neighbor tried it, just in a corner. Another admitted her knees could no longer manage trenches and asked if straw would really be enough. Thomas showed them how to lay the seed on the soil like offerings instead of burdens. how to build the mulch up gently as the plants grew, how to harvest by peeling back layers rather than digging down. Word traveled the way good ideas always do, quietly through results. What surprised everyone was not just the yield, though that alone would have been reason enough. It was the dignity of the work. Gardening became lighter again, kinder. It asked for observation instead of endurance, for patience instead of strength. Older hands, long pushed aside by louder methods, found their place again. Thomas began to understand why the method had vanished in the first place. It did not scale neatly. It could not be hurried. Machines could not measure its success by the hour. It belonged to people who gardened with their whole lives, not their schedules. And so it had been forgotten. Not because it failed, but because it refused to shout. One evening, after another abundant harvest, Thomas sat at his kitchen table with a neighbor's child watching him clean potatoes. The child ran his fingers over the smooth skins, surprised. "They're so clean," he said. "Did you wash them already?" Thomas shook his head. "They grew that way." The boy frowned, puzzled, as children often are when faced with simplicity that adults have complicated. That night, Thomas wrote in the old notebook again. His handwriting was slower now, less confident, but the words mattered more than the shape of them. This way of growing does not exhaust the gardener or the land. It teaches both to trust again. Outside, the soil rested beneath its cover, holding memory the way it always had. And it waited, patient, generous for the next pair of hands willing to listen. By the 5th year, Thomas Avery no longer thought of the garden as his. That realization came slowly, the way important truths usually do, without announcement, without ceremony. One morning, he stood at the fence watching the light move across the straw-covered beds, and it struck him that the garden did not wait for him anymore. It simply was. Alive, balanced, capable. He was no longer managing it. He was accompanying it. The soil beneath those beds had changed in ways that would have startled the man he used to be. Where once it had crusted and hardened by midsummer, it now stayed loose year-round. Where water once vanished too quickly or lingered too long, it now moved as it should. Slow, deliberate, held in trust. Each season added another quiet layer of improvement, not because Thomas worked harder, but because he learned when not to interfere. The potatoes were still remarkable, stacked in gentle towers beneath their mulch, clean and plentiful. But they were no longer the point. The soil was. Children from the nearby houses began to wander over after school. At first, they came for the harvest, for the pleasure of pulling back straw and finding food as if it were hidden treasure. But soon they came with questions. Why weren't the potatoes buried? Why were there so many worms? Why didn't the garden smell sharp or sour like some others? Thomas answered simply. He showed them the difference between soil that is disturbed and soil that is trusted. He let them crumble earth between their fingers. He let them see that the land responds not to force, but to conditions. Plants don't need us to command them, he told one girl who lingered longer than the others. They need us to stop getting in the way. Word spread beyond the fence, beyond the valley. A few younger gardeners arrived with notebooks of their own, eager, skeptical, hopeful. They asked for measurements, for proof, for guarantees. Thomas offered them straw and patience instead. "This isn't faster," he said. "It's steadier." Some understood, some didn't. That was all right. As the years passed, Thomas noticed something else, something deeply personal. The garden had changed the way he moved through the rest of his life. he no longer rushed meals. He fixed things instead of replacing them. He rested without guilt. The rhythm of covering and uncovering, of waiting and observing, had seeped into him. The soil had taught him how to age, not by resisting time, but by layering it gently, by protecting what mattered, by allowing breakdown to become nourishment instead of loss. On his 80th birthday, neighbors gathered by the garden with a simple meal. Potatoes, of course, roasted with herbs, their skins thin and tender. As they ate, someone asked him what he planned to do with the garden next. Thomas looked out over the beds, then down at his hands. Slower now, spotted with age, still steady. "I'll keep covering," he said, and listening. That autumn, he wrote one last entry in the notebook. The words were fewer this time. The land does not need improvement. It needs protection. The gardener does not need strength, only patience. When winter came, the beds rested beneath their blankets. Snow fell, melted, fell again. Life below did not stop. It waited. And when spring returned, someone else lifted the straw for the first time, not to claim the harvest, but to continue the conversation. Because the method was never really lost. It was only quiet, and the soil, faithful as ever, remembered.